shout out to Pharrell, man. He is set to open a private school for low income families in Virginia, obviously his home state. And I know we've done this in the past, or even recently a couple times. We did it with 𝗀𝗄, we did it with Ninth. I think Pharrell is a person that just deserves his flowers, man. Like, this is one of the things that made me think about him just deserving his flowers as a whole. The fact that he's going back to where he's from, and it's based around low income. His school will be based around low income families in Virginia. I think that's extremely dope. It's the epitome of giving back and being, involved in your community. You think about it, this guy's had an amazing career. Like, I'm talking about like GOAT level, top, whatever you want to call it, careers from a producer standpoint, songwriting. Just amazing. Man, he's one of my all-time favorites. Does a lot of creative things from a production standpoint. And I remember standing out because he didn't sample that much in the beginning. All of his stuff, him and Chad, was for the most part them just getting in the studio and collabing on the keyboards and guitars or whatever. Like, he's an actual musician. If you watch some of the videos of him in the studio working and creating, just an all-time great, man, and a huge influence on myself. Just speaking for myself, I'll go to you next, Lone, but just think that brother deserves his flowers, man. He could easily be listed in the top 5. My opinion. I'm not gonna say I'll put him there. That changes. You know how we are when we talk about lists, but I would not be mad at anybody that had Pharrell in their top 5 from a producer standpoint. I think he's that good. Great legacy. Like, stuff like this just caps it off, man. I think this is extremely dope. So shout out to that brother, man. He's contributed a lot of dope stuff to hip hop. Definitely think he deserves his flowers. Long, go ahead and jump in.
No, I agree. Pharrell, I think, is oftentimes, maybe not intentionally, but I think he's left off of the top producers list of all time a lot of times simply because I don't know, maybe he's just, he's very versatile. You'll catch him with some hip hop stuff, and then you'll catch him doing pop records, and, it's all original stuff, and then some sampling stuff, but mostly original stuff. And he even sings a little, even though he can't really sing, you know what I mean? So, but he sounds good on it, and so he's very talented all the way back to the 90s and what he was working with Teddy Riley and stuff, I believe, in the early 90s. And, and so, he's been around forever, and, he got his big run. I think his big run was it early 2000s or was it late 90s? But it was like
late 90s when Super Thug hit. That's the one that really kind of got attention. I mean, he had done Looking at Me from Mace, but people didn't know that Neptune sound yet,
Not yet.
He did do that.
Super Thug is
That's
what
right.
really set it off for them.
That's true.
The Noriega.
Total, they'd done, I want to say, When Boy Meets Girl for Total, and that's like 96. So
right. Yeah.
So they'd been around for a while.
Absolutely. And then I think what probably changed, Pharrell put out a solo album that was really dope.
Fire in my mind. Fire.
Yeah, that was really dope. But that, and then, working with the Clips, those two things kind of, I think, were his two, I don't know, at least from my opinion, those are like the two breakout moments where I was like, all right, Pharrell is different and he's here to stay. Yeah. Even though he had already been around for a while, you know what I mean? So, but yeah, but as far as all the other stuff, yeah, I mean, that's great as well. It's cool to see artists and just people in general that have means to give back, and fill in where the system is failing. So I don't feel like people should have to do that, but nevertheless, here we are. So I think that's great.
I think this is the thing. Like, people are like, "Oh, that's a feel-good story." Somebody comes back to help his community, but like, honestly, that's not his job. Like, it's kind of like when there'll be something where a robotics team makes a kid who's recently paralyzed a mechanical wheelchair, and they frame it as a feel good story, but it's not. That's basically where the system has failed, and people have stepped up to fill in the blank where the system has failed. And you know,
That's
it's
true.
not, these are, you know, you can see them as feel good stories, but honestly, this just lets you know, is like, look, if, you know, there's a whole for-profit medical and almost for-profit educational system that is going to fail your children if they live a certain place, you know. So, you know, luckily there is a very rich entertainer from where you are from, and he's going to come in and, you know, like I said, fill in the gaps to where where society and, you know, the government, because that's what, you know, that's who takes care of public education, where they have failed, you know, this segment of children. Like, in a way, it's a feel good story, because good that Pharrell has the resources to do so. But we shouldn't feel good about any of this, because it just shows that if you are from a certain segment of, whether it be poor, whether it be black, you have to almost be lucky enough and hope that somebody from your community gets out and makes it and can fill in the gaps to where the rest of the system has completely failed you.
100%. Jay Diff, jump in there, bro. We got about 4 minutes before we got to get out of here.
I mean, everybody made excellent points as far as that's concerned. I'm with Jay Moore as far as having to fill in those gaps that that you really shouldn't have to touch. But unfortunately, when you're put in a position like that, when you come from a neighborhood that, your job essentially is to go back and pull everybody else up, because pretty much the system is failing them. And that's also one of the key matters of voting, especially locally. You have to pay attention locally to what's being funded and what's not, and where the monies are going, because that's a prime example of failure in the education system. But as far as Pharrell is concerned, I mean, he's probably the best super producer when you consider every facet, every genre that he's able to tap into. He, like we just discussed a few weeks ago, Fat Joe was calling Khaled the Quincy Jones of hip hop. And that's super cat, because you got people like Pharrell in a game that's literally making music for everybody. And his pen game, as far as production is concerned, is crazy. And that's not even mentioning his counterpart, Nigo, or what's his name?
Chad Hugo.
Stays behind the scenes now. Chad Hugo, the other part of the Neptunes. Those cats are amazing. And he definitely doesn't get the props that he deserves as far as music is concerned, because he's probably the best super producer. I'll stand on that.
It's tough, man. It's tough. Like I said, I won't have any issues with anybody having him as their favorite or top, whatever. Doesn't bother me a bit. Like, he's been consistent for an extremely long time, been at a high level for an extremely long time.
If you've enjoyed this segment from the New Old Heads podcast, make sure to join our live chat every Tuesday from 9 to 11 p.m. Eastern at youtube.com/New Old Heads Network. Make sure to subscribe and hit that bell for notifications. We also invite you to join our private Discord community at newoldheads.com/community.